vibration, energy, frequency, vibration.
What's going on, world? My name is FNX, and you are now tapping in to the Universal Frequency podcast. Thank you. We are back. We are on our second season with a new reason. But before we begin, I have to show love to who we are powered by. Yeah. We are back. And I am excited about this episode. I hope you enjoyed our last one, talking about the mnemonic influence in hip hop, or excuse me, in media. I just always have to put that hip hop lens on it, but it's not just about music. And I thought it was hilarious, but there was something I wanted to play for you guys, right? That I just thought was suited. It was funny. So even though it's technically an episode late, I'm still gonna play this. All right. And if it's on YouTube, I don't think I could get banned. So here we go. Where are we at? I just had this shit, bruh. Oh, here we go.
May white God bless you, Robert. I came as fast as I could.
So this is the plan, Uncle Ruckus.
Let's get this party started.
You got bad credit, Robert.
Removing an evil nigga spirit from a Negro is as hard as removing the stank from a hunk of shit. We must use these tools that the great God has given us to fight niggas. A whip, a noose, a knife, stick, a branding iron. These things strike fear into a nigga's heart. A job application. Avoid conversation with the nigga. The nigga will lie. The nigga will make excuses. He will use words he don't really know. If he gets really desperate, he may start to rap or dance.
You all are testicles and no shaft.
Oh, yeah.
What happened to your shaft,
There is
Robert?
powerful niggardry at work here.
I say that in real life.
Who in the hell are you?
Nigga, my name is Reverend Father Uncle Ruckus. No relation. In the name of white Jesus and all great white men who have come thereafter, I command our black nigga soul back to the depths of hell.
Is that all you got, nigga?
Oh, no, nigga. That's just the tip of this iceberg. Read, nigga, read! Now, Robert, now. Just hit him with anything. Come on, everybody join in. Use your powerful hands. Let's whoop this nigga's ass. Repeat after me the holy phrase. Nigga, get your black ass out of here.
Nigga, get your black ass out of here.
Yeah.
Keep it
Hey, that black
kicking me.
Nigga, get your black ass out of here. Nigga, get your black ass out of here.
Okay. Again, it more suited the last episode. I am a huge Boondocks fan. I remember when they first came out, and I was like, you know, one of the few people in my circle that was like watching cartoons like that. I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. Shout out to Aaron Magruder. Again, holla at me. I want to be in the writing room. You know, I already know what it is with Comedy Central. You know what I mean? Aaron, just get. I got some ideas. And we are back. We are back. Like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Leave a comment. This is the Universal Frequency podcast where, you know, we talk about things that I believe connect us all. Some of them are serious, some of them are lighthearted. But I just want to be able to connect and share these things with you. And so today, I wanted to talk about the vanity in the knowledge of self. Okay, pride. And this is an interesting topic because as someone like myself who's intuitive, all right, I've been times called an empath, or if you believe in all that astrology nonsense, someone that's in tune with universe and their sensory, right? And again, I even hate that term. There is a point where, because you are believing in your oneness and not your oneness in alignment with the Most High, that vanity can come into play. Because whether you know it or not, the enemy wants you spiritually isolated. He does. When you are spiritually isolated and focusing on your knowledge of self and your development and things that may make you feel good, and you're learning about how you can react to things, as opposed to understanding what purpose you serve and what your mission is going to be and how to receive your anointment, you are isolated from God and easier to manipulate. And it's something that I went through, and I'm not shy about sharing my journey because it's one of the few things I can speak about, with authenticity, right? I don't want to come up here and just give you perspective. I want to give you real life scenarios. And after I got either my bachelor's or my master's degree, I'm not sure, but I told my grandmother when I got my degree, I would get baptized, right? After I got baptized, the world started to come to me in ways that it had not presented itself before. Doors are opening for me to entrap myself, or sort of doors would open that would call for me to walk through these doors of places of dark energy, of things that I shouldn't have been doing, or things that don't serve my overall purpose in alignment with the Most High. And it did not occur until I took that step, I guess, to declare where I stood in this spiritual war. And I believe that as I was getting to know myself and I was getting to know my history, right, that I became more powerful in my purpose when it was not the case. These are scenarios where you can see people start to get into their ancestors, or their crystals or their cards and all that stuff, all that spirituality devoid of God, devoid of the Most High. That's what the devil wants from you. The devil does not want you to worship him. He just needs you to not worship God. And that'll be damning enough. Sort of like, a scorned lover. You see some people when they break up with someone and they don't want no one else to have them. That's how he looks at, your rightful anointment and your place in heaven. Yeah, etching God out of ego. He wants you to give up your place in heaven because he cannot have it. Because he is damned, or it is damned. He wants the same for you. Misery loves company. And one of the ways he can get to you is to use your sense of vanity and knowledge of self and atonement supposedly against you. Now, when it comes to, and as I'm looking at my notes here, when it comes to feeding what you feel is right, going through your intuition, going through, how I feel, what I am dealing with in the moment, what I want, you are feeding higher and lower vibrational energy within you. When you operate by solely how you are feeling, you are feeding the light and darkness within. And as you feed the light and darkness within you, that darkness that you're feeding can weigh you down from your anointment, or weigh you down from the blessings that are due to you. Getting caught in the trap of pursuing worldly happiness can buoy you down. I believe Shia LaBeouf, and this just hit me, I should have had this up. Shia LaBeouf had a great comment about him not pursuing happiness anymore. He wanted to pursue utility in the light of God and his family. Done pursuing things that will make him happy in this world, because the truth is, as much of the things that you think that you want, when you get them, you're only going to want more of. or when you get them, it may not fulfill the void that you were looking to fill. Your body releases chemicals, dopamine, things that make you feel good. This how you feel when certain things are done. This isn't a new message. It could be sex. It could be food. It could be weed. Lord knows I've been there with that, right? It could be anything that you use to escape the reality of what you need to be doing next. It's like a side mission, right? Any of us ever played an RPG? There's your main mission and there's your side mission. And sometimes the side missions be fun, but you cannot let them distract you from your main mission. And the reason that we do these side missions, right, is because they may bring us some level of relief or reprieve. So it feels. But that's fleeting. Shia LaBeouf. God. Here we go. Boom. Here we go. Here we go. Let's talk about it. Let me add this to the screen. I didn't think I would find it so quickly, but I'm getting good at this. I'm getting good at this. Share screen. And Shia LaBeouf is a wild boy, right? But I'm not one to judge. But the best thing you could do when you've been a wild boy or girl is go to the light of God. I promise you. All right. You see me on the screen? Let's do it. Here we go.
As an artist who creates art, I found myself in a godly position often, right? Where I was in charge. And it made it hard to believe in God because it felt like my managerial skills are what are going to amount to a fulfilled existence. Yeah. When all of my designs failed, when all of my plans went out the window, when my life had led to serious infliction of pain and damage on other people, I threw up my hands like my plans are garbage and I don't want to be here anymore. I know now, like, my God was using my ego to draw me to him. He was drawing me away from worldly desires. It was all happening simultaneously. The gospel gave me this this invite to just let go. As an artist who creates art, I found myself.
So that actually wasn't the...
My dude, I know I'm blessed today.
But that is profound messaging from him. Now, let's just throw it out there, right? I don't know what some of these circles in Hollywood and people believe. I don't know. I don't know if they're godly or not. I have my suspicions, but I'm not here to allege anything without actual proof, right? So when I hear someone who's been in major movies, like, I mean, listen, I like the new Transformers, I like Bumblebee, but Shia LaBeouf had his run. Yeah, he had his run. He's been in a couple bangers. Eagle Eye was dope, super dope. You wonder just what type of connection this person may have. And when you hear someone like him, who's been at the proverbial top of the mountain, been in the big movies, had the big budgets, gone everywhere, and him say, that despite of what he's achieved, his plans failed, his designs crumbled, and the only thing that was left was his usefulness in the light of God. This is the truth. This is the truth. And when I say it, it comes from a space of, well, you're not a millionaire, blah, blah, blah. You don't got that. Okay, cool. That's what some of my low vibrational friends will say. Oh, you're saying that because you're on the outside, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. But this what Shia LaBeouf has said right here, I think is huge. I think it's huge.
I always thought joy was, I get this and then I'm happy, or I do this and then I'm happy, or I get her and then I'm happy, or I make that and then I'm happy, or they respect me and then I'm happy. Or I always thought happiness was to be acquired by the things I would gain from life. That's why I was always grabbing. If I knew early on that happiness actually is in me offering all of my suffering up for other people as an instructive thing, or as something that could benefit man, then I maybe would have lived my life differently. I always thought joy was...
I ain't gonna hold you. That wasn't the exact clip I wanted, but Shy, you did your job, girl. You did your job in flawless fashion. Yo, if you were truly on the path to enlightenment, I wish you well. Right? And you spread your light and your utility around. But again, vanity and the knowledge of self. When you are isolated spiritually, right? When you were isolated, and I mean directly, not being within the light of the Most High, not walking the path that you were destined or pointed to. And you were ignorant, right, to the fact that this is a spiritual war. And you are ignorant to serving your own emotions and feelings may not align with the Most High. You tend to show cognitive dissonance towards energies that may validate you or make you feel good. You may show a cognitive dissonance towards things that reaffirm the message that you're looking to hear. And as I went down my journey, I had friends that got hugely involved with their ancestors, right? The ancestors and how the ancestors can serve them, right? The Bible tells us that when people pass away, they are not here. They are waiting somewhere until the day of judgment. So whatever entities you guys are entertaining or speaking to or connecting with, they're not godly and they are not your ancestors. That's number one. And I had, and this is really a poignant topic, especially with Black people, right? Because I know some Black people that will say because they are Black and they are brown, that they are blessed and they are anointed, right? And you're God's chosen people, right? That vanity, that because of what your skin looks like may have something to do with your salvation or your damnation. Again, that's what the enemy wants. He wants you to believe that bullshit. And I said it because it's bullshit. To give you some perspective, okay? The story of Moses, right? Moses talking to Pharaoh. Pharaoh was Black. The Kemetic authorities in Egypt were Black. They enslaved other Black people. They worshipped Kemetic gods, which we know are demonic. They were Black. So when Moses brought plagues onto Egypt for the liberation of the Israelites, through God, of course, he was liberating Black people from other Black people. Your skin has nothing to do with your salvation or your damnation. This is a sleight of hand. Just one of them. Just one of them. I remember, particularly after I gotten baptized and, as my friends in our mid-20s started to think about our presence on this world and, what was slavery and the things, how it affected us and, the narrative of there was gifts that we had, right, as slaves and knowledge of the earth and the ways we would worship and things we use naturally that gave us power over our slave masters. And then, we were by some way brought this colonial white Christ, as a way to subjugate people. That was a narrative that I had gotten and at one point believed. That this Christ or this Jesus that they give us, right, was somehow blocking us from our true power. Very stupid and very vain. When the reality is, our ancestors have made mistakes that we are paying for today. Exodus says that the iniquities of the father will fall on the third and fourth generations, right? You and I are breaking generational curses of things that we did not do. What are those things that you're asking? Were all those iniquities that we're paying for? Were all those generational curses that we are having to break and cast out through some sort of sacrifice? Has to do heavily with idolatry. I mean, the word says it. Hold on, let me pull it up. The word says it. Jeremiah 2. Sorry, Google. 2. Jeremiah 2, King James Version. All right, add this to the screen like that. Oh, stop screen, present, share screen. Jeremiah, we'll start 2. Go and cry in the ears of Jerusalem, saying, thus saith the Lord, I remember thee, the kindness of thy youth, the love of thine espousals, when thou wentest after me in the wilderness, in a land that was not sown. Israel was holiness unto the Lord, and the first fruits of his increase. All that devour him shall offend, evil shall come upon them, saith the Lord. Hear ye the word of the Lord, O house of Jacob, and the families of the house of Israel. Thus said the Lord, what iniquity have your fathers found in me, that they are gone far from me, and have walked after vanity and become vain? What iniquity have your fathers found in me, that they have gone far from me, and have walked after vanity and become vain? This text is telling you that previous generations have gone out of the light of God and have walked in vanity and become vain and fallen. And some of the spiritual practices that our forefathers had are a representation of those iniquities. So it has nothing to do, brown-skinned person, with you being black, or pale-skinned person with you being white, or Chinese, or whatever. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the decisions you make within the light of the Most High. And let's be clear, there are some spiritual doctrines that believe in your salvation through works. They believe that you can have enough worldly input and worldly impact that you can basically write your check. That is a falsehood. That is a sleight of hand. And when I think about what this means in terms of pride, right? When Moses told Pharaoh to let his people go, or he was going to basically bring forth plagues and set it on their firstborn and all this other stuff, right? And excuse me, I'm not reciting this verbatim. It was the pride of Pharaoh that got in the way of saving the firstborn children of Israel. It was the pride of Pharaoh that brought the wrath upon his people. That vanity. And oh, by the way, worshiping gods that are not of the Most High. I mean, again, I'm not God, right? So I don't know what's going to make him more mad or less mad. But when you go to the word, it kind of seemed like he don't like none of that shit. Just being forthright. God will not be mocked. So there's something I want to play from Jordan Peterson. Hold on. Did I send this to me? Oh, I did not. Excuse me, chat. I'm sending this up. And I got to be honest with you. I don't necessarily know enough about, some of the people in the clips I may use. Like, I don't know enough about Jordan Peterson to know whether he's a good guy or not. He could be or could not be. This is no way, shape, or form an endorsement. But what I have seen is very thought-provoking clips, and I like what he seems to be about. Okay, so now let's add you to the screen. Oh, here we go. Let's do it. Present, share screen. Jordan Peterson. Pride comes before the fall. Here we go. I think it's about the 3-minute mark.
Structure that governs our being. One of the things that's so remarkable about the Old Testament, this is another thing Nietzsche commented on. He was a real admirer of the Old Testament, not so much of the New Testament. He thought it was a sin for Europe to have glued the New Testament onto the Old Testament, because he thought the Old Testament was a really accurate representation of the phenomenology of being. It's like, stay awake, speak properly, be honest, or watch the hell out, because things will come your way that you just do not want to see at all. And it might not just be you, it might be everyone you know and everything about your culture that is demolished for generation after generation. It's like, stay awake and be careful. And I think that people only don't believe that when they're being hubristic. And I think that most people know that deep in their hearts. You know, when you get high on your horse, that happens fairly often. If you have any sense, you think, geez, I better be careful and tap myself down a fair bit, because if I get too puffed up, man, something's going to come along and take me out at the knees. And everyone knows that. Pride comes before a fall. It's like, if you have any, that's why it says in the Old Testament that fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. It's like, I've never, in all my years as a clinical psychologist, and this is something that really does terrify me, I have never seen anyone ever get away with anything at all, even once. You know, there's that old idea that God has a book, you know, and keeps track of everything in heaven. It's like, okay, you know, maybe it's not a book. Fine. But that is a really useful thing to think about, because, well, and maybe you disagree. Maybe you think people get away with things all the time. I tell you, I've never seen it. What I see instead is that thing happens, right? Someone twists the fabric of reality. And they do it successfully because it doesn't snap back at them that moment. And then like 2 years later, something unravels. And they get walloped and they think, oh my God, that's so unfair. And then we track it. It's like, well, what happened before that? This. Well, and then what? This. And then what? This. And then what? Oh, this. Oh, that's where it went wrong. It's, yeah, because you can't twist the fabric of reality without having it snap back. It doesn't work that way, and why would it? Because what are you going to do? Twist the fabric of reality? I don't think so. I think it's bigger than you. You know, and I think that one of the things that really tempts people is the idea that, well, I can get away with it. It's like, yeah, you try. You see how well that works. It's like you get away with nothing. And that is the beginning of wisdom. And it's something that deeply terrifies me. And, you know, ever since last September, when I came to more like broader public attention, one of the things, I've been terrified of making a mistake, because I certainly know I'm more than capable of making a mistake. And thank God so far, either I haven't made one or no one's found out about it.
Yo, I think that is profound messaging. The pride always becomes before the fall. It always does. I've lived it. I've learned it. I've also gone through periods where I've gotten unlucky, and I had to look at what energy I put out, what circles did I run in that brought forth whatever turbulence I was experiencing. And it's when I got to that point that I started to have a true fear of the Most High, personally. Because the honest to God truth is that the true punishment or reward that will come may not even occur in this lifetime. The true punishment or reward for all of your actions comes on the day of judgment. Not the things that happen at the end of life or someone's decedents. Death is not a punishment. Death is a certainty. Just because someone died doesn't mean they were washed of their sins. And there are some people that do dirt when they're young and they suffer in their elder years. And, you know, I can't provide context around why or how. It's not my role, right? God takes care of that part. But The vanity in believing that you can continually transgress and not be held accountable. And this is not necessarily man's law. I'm talking God's law, right? Some crimes in man's world, there's a statute of limitations that may run out. You could have stole something 20 years ago. Maybe they can't try you. God don't work like that. And for all of, my kinfolk that believe that they can seek spirituality, a level of enlightenment without the Most High God, I would encourage them to not only read their word, but to go to God directly. And he will tell you. I promise you, if you go to the Most High and you isolate yourself and, you disconnect yourself from worldly influences, and you ask God to reveal to you whether you should or should not do something, just be prepared for the answer, because it will come. And then you even thinking that you could take that perspective that you're given and sort of, well, I don't got to do it that way. I got to do it this way. Newsflash. Either you get with the program or you suffer the consequences of being outside the program. And that's real. And that's real. I even think about, now being a father, and I have two beautiful girls, and me being a father and them wanting something. They're wanting a toy, they want to play with something, them wanting to interact with something. Let's say it's scissors. Just saying. They may pick up the scissors, they want to play with it. And what do they want to do? Run with the scissors. I know through my maturation and my understanding that you're playing with something dangerous. I know that if you don't fall, yeah, it may seem like you got away playing with scissors, but you could trip and hurt yourself, seriously kill and injure yourself. So I am not going to let my children who are not ready play with scissors. This is how God treats us at times. There will be things we want to interact with, people, place, or things, whatever you decide, right? And in the moment, at your level of maturation, it may be what you want. And it may be what you desire, right? Think about it. We just talked about knowledge itself. Your oneness can be telling you, this is what I need. I'm in tune with my own energies, and this is what I want. But the truth is, we lack the spiritual maturation to truly understand some of the things that we get involved in. And that's why some doors close on you. And if God closes a door for you and opens another one, you need to be thankful. Because the door could close on its own without God being involved. And that's always worse. I truly believe that. And that is the point of the universal frequency, to talk about things that connect us all. When I first started, I said it was love, right? Love connects us all in some manner. The best form of love is from God. And then me, obviously, the love I have for my family, being a parent, watching your child become born, looking in their eyes. Those are the greatest types of love I could describe, close as opposed to, right under the Most High, right? And how this world may make you feel about things you interact with. That cognitive dissonance you can show towards your own slow self-destruction is something very damning about who we are as a species. For real. And this is not about you knowing yourself. I want you to know yourself. But I want you to know yourself in God's light, not how you view yourself. That's what I would advise. Not that I'm an expert or anything like that, but I promise you that I'm only in this seat having this conversation because that's the conversation I'm supposed to have with you. If I would have told you how I got to this point, the things I experienced, you know, how God spoke to me, you wouldn't believe me. But it's not for you to believe. It's for me. And I'm just doing my part. But I promise you, any person that is prideful enough to believe that they can do things without the light of the Most High will be humbled in ways I can't explain. Lord God is a just God. He rewards greatly and he punishes greatly. I don't know what to tell you, bro. I don't know what to tell you. I don't make the rules. You know, I just watch the game tape and be like, oh, wow, that was crazy. And, you know, the thing about being vain, right, is that some people don't even know it. They don't. Now, all the people that know me in real life will tell you, I have talked my fair amount of shit. Yes. And I will on some level. I'm that guy. But I understand. I understand the role that I play. And I understand that I've closed doors for myself throughout my vanity. And the only way for me to realize that I was being held back by it is to really ask for that understanding and be accountable for energy I put out there, things that I've done. And I want you to replace that with you. Genuinely. Now, we get into these deep conversations. I'm supposed to be playing music and shit. Like, okay, yes, all that is true. But I really need you to receive this point, because the people that are suffering from this vanity of knowledge of self, this cognitive dissonance of rewarding whatever make them feels good or gives them dopamine, and they're stuck in this trap of worldly things. You have to ask to be delivered. Ask, not ask, excuse me. Ask to be delivered from it. You know, these are my thoughts. These are the things I be thinking when I drive home. You know, I used to drive home from work and listen to ignorance. You know, I used to drive home from work, you know, and listen to niggas argue on Clubhouse because it was funny to me. And then I got to a point where I was like, what's the point of that? I started to take a look closer on what I was bringing into my portal, what I see, what I taste, what I hear. And this journey, this is not necessarily about the destination. The book opens and it closes. There's one true final destination, and that is the day of judgment. But along the way, you get an opportunity to prove who you are, what you believe, how you operate. Those are the things that I think you have to find most important. I do. But you know what? This actually is a segue into a song of mine that I can now play. Ooh, here we go. Let me see. This drops today. Let's see. Here we go.
What's going on, world? Who the
false silence. Dealing in dark energy, all glory to God, so just let that be my legacy. Moment of false silence. Filled with hatred and jealousy, the devil is a liar, the most high you will never be. Moment of false silence. Dealing in dark energy, all glory to God, so just let that be my legacy. Moment of false silence. Yeah. Moment of false silence. Moment of false silence. Pedophilia and demonology, corruption and idolatry, wizard wickets inside of me, molded like evil pottery. Y'all soul selling, acting like you lottery struck. When I found the true light of God and poverty, the greatest story that's never been told was set to exorcise demons and never get fold. That was realer than anything I could ever compose. And maggot wicked witches repenting on yellow be froze. Sound of the triumphant seventh and night trumpet, and the days and nightfall that I come with divine strength of every angel that I run with. Help me write the music I speak in the fine tongue with. Father, forgive me how I work the pen, cause those who throw the first stones will be the first to sin. There is no possible outcome where the serpent wins. It'll be fire when God floods the earth again against all odds. Dealing in dark energy, all glory to God, so just let that be my legacy. Filled with hatred and jealousy, the devil is a liar, the most high you will never be. Dealing in dark energy, all glory to God, so just let that be my legacy.
Rise of the Phoenix.
I'm here to break generational curse, put the light of God and make all your fallen angels disperse. I'm like blade with insatiable thirst, here to rebuke demons and spiritual war up and wages is birth. Trust embrace pain when it hurts, no legion raised in the dirt. I just kept the faith and it came in the work. Bar after bar, I'm shaking the turf, cause I woke the path of a forgotten king that was raised as a serf. You don't find no one with an iller style, cause I'm destined for greatness like baby Moses on the river now. In the blood of Christ, I'm still endowed. I get on stage and then reflect the Holy Spirit in the crowd. Still it only gets rockier. At the Nexus and Megalodon, and you rappers is tilapia. For the gang laws, your mafia. You'll never be iller than God, cause it's not in your gematria. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to the nor serve them. For I, the Lord God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Rolling the full silence. Dealing in dark energy, all glory to God, so just let that be my legacy. Rolling the full silence. Filled with hatred and jealousy, the devil is a liar, the most high you will never be. Rolling the full silence. Dealing in dark energy, all glory to God, so just let that be my legacy. Rolling the full silence. Rolling the full silence. Rolling the full silence.
Rise of the Phoenix.
Unmuted. We are back. Rise of the Phoenix, fnxmusic.com. We on all digital streaming service providers. Go listen to it and come back to me and let me know, was I right or wrong? I make a couple poignant points in that project, but happy to share this message. And I found something that I thought was dope. Now, you previously heard me talk about Pharaoh and Moses and how, Moses was liberating his people from Pharaoh, who was also a black person that believed in demons, et cetera, right? So I want to play this video, right, about Pharaoh's priests flying into heaven and who battle angels. This shit is nuts, bro. This shit is nuts. Okay. Okay, so let me add
today's video. We are going to discuss an interesting story that features in the Chronicles of Jeremiah, a work produced in the 14th century that compiles a multitude of apocryphal works, culminating in an extensive biblical history.
Let me try this again. Hold on. I'm going to stop sharing. Let me pull up a different one. Sorry, technical difficulties. Can I type? Where are they at? Dang. Why is this video? let's do it.
We are going to discuss an interesting story that features in the Chronicles of Jeremiel, a work produced in the 14th century that compiles a multitude of apocryphal works, culminating in an extensive biblical history that spans from the creation of the universe by God to the death of Judas Maccabee. One of the stories tells of heaven being assailed by two Egyptian sorcerers, two of the sorcerers who opposed Moses when he returned to Egypt to demand of the Pharaoh that he release the Israelites from bondage. We are going to start off with a quick summary of Moses' return to Egypt, his contest against the sorcerers of the Pharaoh, and the affliction of the 10 plagues upon Egypt. Following that, we're going to go through the story that tells of the two sorcerers who take to the air, their witchcraft granting them the power of flight, and fly to heaven, there doing battle against the archangels Michael and Gabriel. Let's get into it. After fleeing Egypt, traveling to Midian, and marrying Zipporah, Moses became a shepherd. One day, while watching over his father-in-law's flock, he came across a burning bush, a most peculiar sight because, while the bush was on fire, it wasn't being consumed by the fire. A voice projecting from the bush spoke to Moses, saying that he had been chosen to deliver the Israelites from bondage. Initially, Moses was resistant to this, producing an array of reasons that explain why he was either certain to fail in this task or was ill-suited to this task. These reasons were overcome, and God assured Moses that he, his divine presence and power, would be with Moses in this great task appointed to him. Moses returned to Egypt, convinced the Israelites that God was with them, and, with Aaron at his side, went before the Pharaoh. What followed was a sort of wizard's duel between Moses, backed by the power of God, and the wise men, sorcerers, and magicians of the Pharaoh, their number armed with all manner of trick and enchantment. Aaron placed his staff before the Pharaoh and it transfigured into a serpent, but this was not to impress the Pharaoh, for likewise, his servants also turned their staffs into serpents. And this back and forth continued. Only the contest ceased to be so innocuous, for the next displays of God's power revealed by Moses were the 10 plagues: a river of blood, an inundation of frogs, a swarm of gnats, a swarm of flies, a disease that killed livestock, an affliction of boils upon the people of Egypt and their livestock, a hailstorm that ruined crops and killed livestock, a swarm of locusts that devoured the surviving crops, 3 days of darkness, and finally, an avenging angel that killed the firstborn of the Egyptians. The servants of the Pharaoh managed to keep pace for the first 2 plagues, turning water to blood and producing frogs. But by the third, they were at a loss, conceding that some greater power was at work, saying, "This is the finger of God." After the 10th plague, the Pharaoh, himself having lost his firstborn son, at last relented and allowed Moses to lead the Israelites from Egypt. But he later changed his mind, mustered his forces, and pursued Moses, the Pharaoh's hardened heart, hardened by God, impelling him.
That's because the Israelites stole the Ark of the Covenant. So we'll come back to that.
But he caught up with the Israelites too late. Moses parted the Red Sea and led his people out of Egypt. And once the Israelites had crossed, the walls of water closed in behind them, crushing the Pharaoh and his army underneath walls of water, utterly destroying them. The Chronicles of Jeremiel is a voluminous work that was compiled by Eleazar ben Asher the Levite, or at least by someone claiming this name, who had lived in the Rhineland in the 14th century. The works he incorporated into his compilation, arranged chronologically so that they parallel the reckoning of Scripture, span from the moment of creation to the death of Judas Maccabee, a Jewish priest who lived in the 2nd century BC. Many of the works compiled were written centuries apart, some of them written earlier in the medieval period, while others were written in antiquity, centuries before the birth of Christ. One of these works tells of 2 Egyptian sorcerers, Janus and Jambres, here called Johannai and Mamre. Janus and Jambres are identified in the book of Timothy as 2 of the sorcerers who opposed Moses when he presented himself before the Pharaoh. These 2 sorcerers accompanied the Pharaoh when he and his army pursued the Israelites. Moses parted the Red Sea, allowing his people to leave Egypt. But the Pharaoh and his army, who were furiously pursuing the Israelites, didn't make it across. instead swallowed up by two crashing walls of water, the power of God no longer holding them in place. Johani and Mamre saw that their death was imminent, the sea closing in around them. But rather than accepting destruction alongside the Pharaoh and the Egyptian army, they used their magical arts to take flight, but not simply to alight safely on the shore. They flew higher and higher until they came to the upper reaches of the firmament. Thus,
they flew into the upper reaches of the firmament. Let's continue.
Leaving the mortal plane behind and transcending to heaven, the realm of the divine, where they battled against the angels, namely Michael and Gabriel.
Hey, yo. Now, if this don't sound like something Marvel probably ripped off at some point, who knows? But they flew into the sky beyond the firmament into heaven to do battle with Michael and Gabriel. Okay.
Both of whom were powerless against the two sorcerers they found themselves pitted against.
Okay, I got to stop pausing the video. But I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying that must have been a crazy battle and they must have been into some shit. I said it, but it gets better.
Michael and Gabriel supplicated God, asking him to deliver them from their plight, to intervene and execute punishment. And in response, God sent Metatron.
He sent Metatron, right? Metatron. That name triggers me so much. It does. And you know why? I don't necessarily have to go into it. But when you do your research on who Metatron was, this just gets iller. It gets iller. But there's a point of this. He was talking fast, and I want to make sure y'all got it. All right, here we go.
In non-scriptural sources, often portrayed as the mightiest of the angels. And Metatron overpowered the two sorcerers and threw them from heaven, casting them back down to earth, careful to ensure they fell into the sea, as this is what God commanded. Here, in addition to destroying the Pharaoh and his army, God also consumed the Egyptian gods in divine fire. Here's the passage that describes
God also consumed the Egyptian gods in divine fire. So when you hear these people talking about Kemetic principles and worshiping Kemetic gods and getting in touch with the gods of Egypt and all this other idolatry or demonic nonsense, this battle's already been fought and won. These people are venerating energy from the losing side. According to this story here, Amun-Ra and whoever those Egyptian gods were thrown into divine fire ahead of the day of judgment. And Black people worship this. So that's just my long-winded way of saying that regardless of what your color is, it does not save or damn you. Your works in the light of the Most High and your compliance and obedience to God's will is what will determine your damnation or salvation. That's real.
Describes what followed. The nations heard it and trembled. The sages say that when the Egyptians pursued the Israelites and beheld them, they were seized with great fear and dread, and did not wish to enter into the sea after them. God therefore sent Gabriel to them, and he appeared like a mare entering the sea. Pharaoh's horse immediately followed into the sea after it, and he was followed by all the Egyptians. Then spake God to Moses, saying, Stretch forth thy hand over the sea, and the waters shall return upon the heads of Pharaoh and his chariot and his riders. Moses thus stretched forth his hand upon the sea, which was cleft asunder and rent.
Okay. So, what do I want from you who's listening to this? I want you to do your own research. That's what I want. I want you to do so much research that you hop on one of these streams and then you share that with me. I do. I would be happy to engage in that, to unveil the truth. But from this understanding is clear to me, is that there's only one true God. The vanity in believing that despite whatever power level you attain, despite what you're able to accomplish, despite how accomplished you may feel in your own earthly works, is nothing compared to the light of the Most High. That's it. That's it. And, you know, I hate to make it sound so serious. First off, I just got to be real. This whole story is ill. Like, I would love to shoot like it. Yeah, listen, if one of y'all steal it, whatever. It ain't my story to hold on to, but this got to be an anime. This got to be an anime. I've seen some trash animes. So this got to be an anime or something. We got to bring this to life. You know, I would love to see, you know, Gabriel and Michael battle Egyptian priest and call him Metatron. Hey yo, they really just changed the letter on that, bro. Megatron, they really just let me change this to a G. And now we have our own character. Like, bro, I feel like a lot of our history has been like not just stolen, but perverted. Because Metatron is ill. That what he just said was ill. Michael and Gabriel called for backup, and then Metatron showed up. Anyway, I'm gonna get off that. But shout out to Mythology Explained. I definitely think it's a dope channel just because they provide some historical context and, you know, some of the spiritual perspectives out there. But again, there's only one high and true God. And I know how I say it's probably a bit unorthodox. Sorry. But don't let that distract you from the truth of what I'm speaking, man. The vanity and the pride of what you can accomplish or what you can do or anything you could create pales in comparison, you know, to the Most High. Shout out to the Universal Frequency Podcast. Thank you for all of you who tuned in. Like, subscribe, share, and we out.
Energy, frequency, vibration. Energy, frequency, vibration.